There's one more little thing where Africa leads that should scare the hell out of all of us. Africa has become, for quite some time now, a net food importer. Now, why is that scary? Because Africa is poor, so how do you become a net food importer? With what money? So when China kicked off its spectacular rise through economic reforms in the early 80s, it had more or less the same population as Africa today. The difference between China's rise and that of Africa, however, is that during that period, China was able to achieve continuous double-digit growth between 14% and 18% for 30 straight years, against Africa's 6% over 20 years. In the process, China liberated more than 40% of its population from extreme poverty and transformed itself into the world's biggest manufacturer of everything, from basic clothing to sophisticated electronic devices for companies such as Apple, Cisco, and others. China even replaced the West as the biggest giver of ODA to African countries during this time. The 20 years of Africa's growth, on the other hand, has created the developing world's most unequal societies, with the top 10% of Africans controlling 45% of the continent's GDP, and more than 36% living on less than $1 a day. This so-called growth has created a socioeconomic time bomb that has already gone off in some places. China achieved this remarkable feat by preparing its human resource to take up industrial jobs. China methodically and deliberately trained millions of engineers and technicians over several decades before they are ready to claim the badge of the world's biggest manufacturer. China was graduating as many as 600,000 engineers through its colleges every year by 2005, it's 11 years ago, and intends to have 200 million engineers by the year 2030. Africa, on the other hand, has seen a mass exodus of students from STEM subjects in favor of easier arts and social sciences. The majority of African engineers today are either retired or, like me, approaching retirement. The total number of active engineers on the African continent is less than 500,000. Yet we hear African politicians saying this is the century of Africa's industrialization. Nothing wrong with that noble aspiration, but my question is this: how can we industrialize without engineers, technicians, and artisans?